Jurassic Park, 1993. Since the dawn of time, nature has been mystifying, powerful, and unpredictable. Since the dawn of man, we have tried to decipher, dissect, and exploit nature to our advantage. Cue John Hammond, who just wants to make every child's and child at heart's dream a reality by sparing no expense to open a park filled with wonderment, excitement, and exploration of a lost world. It's a dinosaur park. Children love dinosaurs.
So I'm super curious. Will has been prepping us for a while now that he's not that big of a fan of this movie, or at least been sowing seeds. Exactly. You've never actually said it, but you've been sowing seeds that would lead people to believe that you are not a big fan of this movie. So I'm actually going to come out the gate, and I'm going to do something we've never done on this show. Two things we've never done on this show. Okay. One, I'm going to give my score right away. And two, I'm giving this movie a fucking 100. Now, if you guys want to try and push me down from that, that is on you for the next hour. But I'm telling you, I love this movie. Now, I'm not saying the franchise. I'm not saying the franchise. But this one, as a standalone 1-1 movie, I think it's fucking perfect.
I mean, you would be certifiably insane if it was the franchise.
No. Yes. 2's okay. 3 is awful. We'll get into them.
Maybe.
A solid 100.
A solid 100.
I might change my score by the end of the episode if you guys can really punk some holes into it. But right now, going over my 5 categories, I find no flaws in this movie.
As a movie critic of extensive background in history, much experience in this realm, I never find anything to be a perfect score. There are always cracks and flaws that we can find, and we're going to pick this movie apart.
The question is, do the cracks and flaws ruin the experience for you? And for me, they do not. I know that some of the science is wrong. I don't care. This is the movie they presented with us. And I know people are going to bring up the dinosaur or the T-Rex paddock. Who cares? It's a fun sequence. Are there like the tiniest, pin pricks of plot holes? Maybe. But overall, the movie is so good, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't change the experience for me. And I did mention 2 weeks ago that there are movies there are movie franchises where there are movies I could put 100 on. This is the movie I was thinking of even before we decided to do this movie. It just so happened this was the first franchise up since we said that.
You have multiple franchise movies that you're going to put 100
This was the one I was thinking of. This is the one I was thinking of.
Is there multiple? I just want to know for future
off the top of my head, I can't think of another one that I'm at a pure 100 for.
Okay.
There's the other 2 that come to mind. I can't give 100 to off the top of my head. But I'm not ruling out that it's a possibility.
Right, of course.
I don't have Brian's compulsion to just ding something for the sake of dinging it.
I don't ding things for the sake of dinging it. I just
Your
don't
favorite
believe
movie of all time, you gave a 97
to. It should always be the pursuit of perfection. There are always ways to find improvable areas in a film, and so I never give anything a 100. Maybe I'll find something and I'll just be like, wow, that's the holy grail, But it's just never happened. Now, Will, would you like to throw a few jabs at Dan's score there, or do you just want to come out with like a haymaker? What do you got for us?
He's coming out at 98. Oh, it's so close.
I mean, let's talk about the movie a little bit, I suppose.
Sure.
It's got some decent actors in it. I'd say some of the character. I would say I'll tell you my scoring right now. My lowest score on this movie is for the writing. There's plenty of problems with the writing of this movie. It's based on a novel. The person who wrote it, Crichton or whatever his name is,
Michael Crichton.
And there's maybe 20% of the novel is in the movie itself, which leaves a lot of things they talk about. Like, why are they even talking about this? It has zero relevance to the rest of the movie whatsoever. And one of those things is, I'll bring it up now, the lysine effect of the dinosaurs.
What about the lysine contingency? We could put that into effect.
What's that?
The scientists remove lysine from the dinosaurs, and without it, they will die because they can't create the proteins to survive, to make their body survive and stay, alive. You need protein to build muscles and whatnot, and so forth. So they talk about that in a scene. Tell me why, Dan. Why do they talk about that? Please enlighten me.
Well, At that point in the movie, the dinosaurs have already started to escape and bad things are starting to happen. They're starting to ask, do you not have any contingencies for this? All they seem to have is shotguns, and that's because John Hammond is staunchly against killing his creations. He doesn't want to do it. But they do have contingencies in case the dinosaurs escape the island.
So they're just going to hold out security for like 2 years for the lysine effect to take place? Like, what point in
they're on an island 80 miles off the coast. They don't need lysine. They don't.
Did they say how long it takes for the lysine effect to kick in?
Well, I assume they have to administer it because that's how they have to do it. So,
it's not fast enough because we find out they just found some plants and ate them and they're fine.
Oh, Speaking of plants,
faster than lunch,
Speaking of plants, they have found the blood of dinosaurs, the DNA in the mosquitoes. Where are they getting these prehistoric plants from, Dan?
Right.
Can you tell me that? That was
totally unnecessary. That was absolutely unnecessary. The flora and fauna that came into play, it didn't make any sense at all. When they're first pulling up on those brontosauruses, and she's like, "We haven't seen this species of plant in over 1,000 years, whatever." And then he like turns her head to the dinosaurs, thinking that the audience is going to forget that fact. Well, I didn't. That was unnecessary. It was a plot hole. And back to the lysine effect, that doesn't even come into play until the second movie, and they discard it with like a sentence, and it was like it did not. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Will. The lysine thing, it didn't even need to be a part of it.
Okay, but we're not talking about the second movie. We're talking about this movie, so you can't really bring up something from the second one. It didn't need to be a part of this movie either. It shows that they had a contingency plan. They had something in place. They had thought of something, but as we learn with John Hammond, he doesn't really think things through. He likes to say they spared no expense, but you see many, many times where he is a little bit off on his math, a little bit off on what he's doing. He is still essentially Jurassic Park is still, as Goldblum says, it's still the flea market. It's still just an illusion. Actually, that might have been Laura Dern. That might have been Laura Dern. My bad. It's still all an illusion.
Why do they need the lysine contingency? They're on an island 80 miles off the coast, and in this movie, they don't have pterodactyls. They don't have flying dinosaurs or fish.
We don't know. We don't see all 15 species they've got. We know there's 15 species. We see like 7.
Okay, well, they should have put a poster in the background of all 15 and exclude any fish or wings, and then you don't need the lysine contingency.
Okay, but you've got dinosaurs small enough. Like, you don't want... Okay, so A, you don't want contingencies where the dinosaurs get to the mainland and can start hurting people. B, you don't want other people to start stealing your dinosaurs. The little Compsognathus are pretty small. You could easily catch one of those and take it to the mainland. One of the co-workers, or there's somebody there. Like, you got Dennis Nedry, who's down on money. Somebody else takes one of those dinosaurs. Bam, now you got a live dinosaur somewhere else. No, you don't. The thing's going to die in a little while. It's part of the plan. They don't need to spell everything out for you. The thing with really good... No, 1 second.
We track whales? Come on.
The thing with really good movies is they should be showing you everything, not just telling you everything. And this movie does a good job of doing both of those things. You don't need to get your hand held for why something makes sense. They can show you something like, hey, we have plans in place.
They gave us the tour of the facility, a literal ride that they go in, and we have a cartoon character that explains it to the audience. Now,
of course,
I will say, this is one of those times.
Of course, they have a cartoon character. What are you talking about?
Those times when they had a lot that they felt they needed to explain, and they did tell the audience everything the audience needed to know. They did it in a cartoonish, dumb way, but it fit and it made sense and it was okay and it was fun and it did explain everything. I usually like to figure things out for myself, but this was a complex idea. In fact, when the book came out, everybody was like, hey, let's go mining for bugs and really bring back dinosaurs. People really thought this shit could happen.
This movie changed paleontology.
Right.
Like, this movie made so many paleontologists in the same way that Jaws made so many people afraid of the ocean. Like, this movie had a cultural impact on society.
I mean, this one in a positive way, Jaws in a negative way.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I actually didn't mind the exposition either. You know, they had to put it in the movie. Right. The exposition of how things work. But my question
They don't have it right away, though. They give you that amber at the mine at the very beginning. And you kind of go, what do we do? Why do we care about the mosquito? And then they explain it nicely later on in a way that makes perfect sense in world, which is showing kids how they made the dinosaurs. In a way that's palatable to kids.
As a performer myself, though, I just cannot believe that John Hammond is going to go through every tour talking to himself on the screen for every child who comes through this park.
As a performer, do you do one take or do you multiple takes? So this is my take with John Hammond. This is my take with some random person. Did we see it? No, we didn't have to. We were on the VIP tour. I'm sure he'd have lots of VIP tours when he brings presidents and stuff through that he can be there for. And he's going to have other copies of that where it's just one random tour guide.
He wanted to be present for the birth of every dinosaur on the island, and that seems a bit extensive.
Of course, we see that John Hammond is extensive. He doesn't know what he's doing. In the very first scene, we see him show up with a helicopter in the desert and lands right in the middle of camp. That's not what you're supposed to do, but he doesn't care. He's too in his own head. He's not paying attention to things. That is his character. You can fault him for that, but that is a legitimate character trait of John Hammond's.
Okay.
So I don't take that as a negative when he does something eccentric and silly. That's who he is. He is an eccentric billionaire. He spares plenty of expenses, by the way.
Okay. So you think there's no plot hole bigger than a pinhole?
I don't think there's any major plot. Oh, okay. The science is wrong, but as I've said, every episode we've made, if you're going to present me something, this is how the world works, I'm going with it.
I'm okay with the science because they kind of just stay to it, and that's fine. I mean, having a science movie trying to make it a believable thing that people bring dinosaurs back and then changing the dinosaurs.
Movies where people can travel through time. Who cares?
I know. But we know we can't travel through time. We know cloning is a possibility. So it is a little different in that way. But I'm not faulting the movie for that. But the biggest plot hole and bad writing for me, aside from maybe some characters that definitely need some development, is the Deus Ex Machina of the T-Rex at the end of the movie. Why, in Holy Lord above, did they just plop that T-Rex in to save everybody at the end of the movie? That is the sloppiest writing I've seen in a long time.
Because they wanted the scene where the banner poised above your head, Will, is falling down saying dinosaurs will rule the earth as the T-Rex roars in victory, because that gave me a bit of a dino boner when I saw that scene, and it didn't need to happen, but it was fucking cool.
That doesn't make it good writing, though.
Steven Spielberg will tell you all day long, I'm sure. I don't know the exact wording he'd use. Rule of cool. Like, if you can make something better just by making it look or be more exciting, go for it. It's the same reason the Tyrannosaur pen doesn't quite work. Now, maybe it does. We don't see a graphical view of what the dinosaur pen looks like.
No, it absolutely does not.
I've seen theories where it does. You want to say it doesn't. I really don't care. It's an exciting scene and I enjoyed it. And when I was 10 years old in the theater, I didn't give a shit. So, rule of
You're
cool. You're
talking about how the car...
1 second, I'm talking.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm attacking both of you on this one and whatever. We're just getting passionate because you guys were so dry beforehand. Rule of cool. It's cool as the T-Rex in that building doing that last shot. We get that one last magnificent T-Rex roar as we go to the helicopter and the movie flies away. 2, everybody wanted to see Raptors versus a T-Rex. We know that if we didn't get to see that, that would be the conversation. Which one wins in a fight? Because those are the 2 big threats in the movie.
Did everyone?
We need to see it? No.
Yeah,
was it cool?
I wasn't expecting, Godzilla versus King Kong in this film. I wasn't looking for the big fight, but it happened and it was really cool, and I was happy about that. Yeah. Can you go back, and for those who maybe haven't seen the movie or just want to hear us ramble a little bit, can you explain the T-Rex paddock that you guys keep bringing up and how it doesn't actually function?
Okay,
right?
So in the T-Rex scene, we see the first time they come up, they bring a little goat up. They're trying to get the T-Rex to come to the center so they can actually see him. T-Rex doesn't want to hunt. T-Rex doesn't want to be fed. T-Rex wants to hunt. Nothing happens. They drive away. They come back. The power goes off. They can see the goat, so we know we're at the Tyrannosaurus paddock. Power goes out and the T-Rex eats the goat, and all of a sudden the T-Rex decides to test the fence, which sounds like more of a raptor thing, but whatever, and brings down the fence. Comes through, attacks the 2 vehicles, pushes one off the train, the one with the kids in it, off the track, rolls it around a little bit, pushes it over the edge, and the problem is when he pushes it over the edge, it falls 50 feet. Well, if the T-Rex just crawled through there, the T-Rex isn't tall enough to make it up that, and T-Rexes can't jump like velociraptors, so how does that make sense? The thing that I saw, and I'm not saying this makes sense, I'm with you that this doesn't work, all right?
I know, you just don't care because
I just don't care. It was fun.
Yeah,
when I was 9, I didn't see it. When I was 9, I just thought it was fun.
Pinhole.
I just thought that there was a fence on either side.
There's a wide area where the fence is, right? Where the fence is ripped down. There's a wide area. It could be not so much a slope, but like here's the Tyrannosaurus paddocks that it's up high, so obviously you can see what's happening. Here is the next fence, and it is down low because I don't know why. Just the way the island is made, I guess. We've seen cliffs in real life. It happens.
I just
so
always thought
he comes out here, pushes them out over here.
I just always thought that there was like a wall on either side. And for most of it, we're looking from like the driver's side window. And then when it pushes it over, it's pushing it over the other direction. And we see it from the passenger side window going over. As a kid, that's just what I thought. Because I immediately went, there wasn't a cliff there. Oh, he must be pushing it the other direction or something. Or you're right. There could be a slope and it's further down the track a little bit.
He does push it with his nose a little bit. Not a ton, but a little bit.
Yeah,
right.
And where they go through is where the things are all broken and it looks exactly the same. But it's fine. It's a theory.
And honestly,
anything could happen.
Honestly, I don't have as big a problem with that.
Quickly when they don't fall down, they snap back. Right? Like when he's coming through there, like they go flying. So there is quite an area that's open.
I have less of a problem with all of that than the T-Rex testing the fence and deciding to go through. It didn't. Why? Why would the T-Rex decide that it's not electrified all of a sudden? It would have no.
I have a bigger problem.
Look, I'm not saying
T-Rex.
it's a good.
I have a bigger problem with the T-Rex being able to see the goat that's just standing motionless.
Well,
maybe the goat's bleeding.
Why are they feeding the T-Rex a goat that's just standing there? It's never going to eat it because it'll never see it.
If the goat sees a T-Rex, the goat's going to freak out, and then it's moving, and then the T-Rex hears it and goes after it. Did we hear a goat
freaking out? No, we just saw
a lamb because we don't see a T-Rex. If when they bring the goat up, the T-Rex is there, the goat's going to see it, freak out, and then the dinosaur would see it. Also, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but whatever. In things like Daredevil, when there is sonar seeing, the rain makes impact. So the rain hitting the goat, maybe that's enough movement. We don't know how T-Rex's eyes work. I've heard actually a lot of people saying the whole they can only see motion is bullshit anyways, but
it is.
Never seen the movie, so we
not to get ahead of ourselves, number two, they forget the whole motion thing. Number two, they just forget it.
Two is a different movie. I'm not defending two right now.
The running theory is because T-Rex's skull indicates that their eyes are forward facing like our own. More motion tracking eyes are based on skulls that are on either side, like a chameleon or what have you, where the eyes move independently, and so they track motion more than a straight on vision.
Sure.
Okay, I would like to say we're nitpicking on a lot of stuff. These are a lot of little things. These are things that I
still don't agree that the T-Rex at the end coming in like a god, just saving them, is not a little thing. That is by far the biggest plot hole in this movie.
But it's balanced out by it's just so damn cool. That for me, it's just so damn cool. I'm okay with it, right? Like
I
watch Fast and Furious movies not for the writing, but because they're fun and entertaining, right? They're terribly written movies. They're written with fucking crayons, but I watch them because they're cool.
That's fine, but the problem is, Dan said this has perfect writing.
Exactly, I understand. And so now, but I feel like we are nitpicking a bit. And for me, these things that we're talking about only bring the score down a touch here and there. I don't have big problems. I want everybody in chat, I want the viewers to know, I don't have a big problem with this. But if we're going to say a perfect score, then I'm going to sharpen my pencil and I'm going to show Dan where there are chinks in the armor.
And that's why I did it first. That is the 100% the reason, because I didn't want to like surprise you at the end and be like, what? No, I wanted this fight. There are enough great moments in the writing that having that T-Rex show up at the end for an incredibly cool scene, more T-Rex, the better. I let it go, and like it doesn't bother me that much. We see that there are tarps in the background, so the building is still under some level of construction. Mm-hmm. So you say there's no chance he could make it in there. I say they give you enough doubt that it's okay with me. If he went up an elevator to the 45th floor, I'm with you. But we see a building that is incomplete and a T-Rex that could, quite frankly, break the building if he wanted to.
Okay.
Do you think he couldn't?
I don't think a dinosaur would have any need or reason to try to break a building, especially.
There's a lot of commotion going on inside there.
Especially if it, not.
He can hear dinosaurs. He can hear crashing.
T-Rex, a few, let's say an hour or so earlier, getting a full meal from dinosaurs running through a field.
He eats one. Look how big the T-Rex is.
The T-Rex has been eating throughout the whole movie.
He eats one person, one lamb, and one thing. One Gallimimus?
Sure.
Yeah,
do you know T-Rex metabolism? Do you know T-Rex metabolism?
That you've seen. Monguli, that guy, he's had time to eat all day, man. Like, I can throw in invisible theories all day too, buddy. But you see it eating. You see it feasting on, theoretically, animals it wants to eat. Not tiny little humans that don't mean shit. Or not raptors that are enclosed in a building that it has no real way or care of seeing or going into. Like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
You guys are missing the whole worst part of the movie, though. You're getting so distracted by dinosaurs and whether they see or can open doors or get into buildings, how hungry they are. You're missing the worst part of this movie, which is not one, but two child actors.
I knew you were going to have a problem with this. The fact that you are anti-kids doesn't mean the rest of us are. Just because you hate children.
Joseph Mazzello wasn't horrible until he tried to be scared. When he tried to be scared, it came off stupid. And that's the only reason why his joke at the end, when he says 3 after getting shocked off the fence, was anywhere near funny, because the rest of the time when he is scared and hyperventilating, it just looks silly and ridiculous. And Ariana Richards was like, when she just suddenly nerds out and is a super hacker and she's like, oh, it's all a program.
They literally
and she
set that up earlier in the movie.
Opening up the doors and stuff. I was like, this is just dumb. This is so dumb.
They specifically said earlier on in the movie that all she does is stay in her room and that she's a nerd. And she's like, I prefer the term hacker. And he's like, whatever, you're a nerd who lives in her bedroom.
Yeah,
and her grandfather is John Hammond. You don't think she has the best fucking computer money can buy?
I don't care. It was dumb. It was just
You say it's dumb. I say it's not.
The whole thing was stupid.
Don't worry, Run. Don't worry.
Just don't make it complex. Just make it fucking, I don't know, Windows 95. Do you remember operating Windows 95? Just have her fucking trying to type while she's under pressure and open the doors. She doesn't need to be a hacker.
Brian, in 1993, they were doing DOS. That was a simplistic program. That was a simplistic program.
Just make it a simplistic program.
Just have the computer crash and have to reboot the fucker.
She doesn't need to be a hacker. It just didn't have to go that far. It was dumb. And her acting was terrible. I don't know if it was just her lines, but her acting was terrible.
Says you. You also hated the kid from E.T. I don't know if you count.
You've been anti-Haley Joel Osment. You've been around, but it's got a child actor, so it probably sucks.
I don't mind that she's a hacker. I don't feel like at a 12-year-old level in the 1990s, she comes across as somebody who stays in her room all day. She's not dressed that way. She's not presented that way throughout the film. It does seem that in mere moments, she gets the whole entire place back up and running. I do feel like that's a bit of a stretch. That's my opinion on her. I didn't mind the children actors because this is a park full of children. I more minded that Hammond would think to bring his grandkids on this journey after the park is being investigated because a man died. That is more than a character flaw. That's bad writing, because as a parent, I would never.
Right.
And I can't see it. It's unbelievable.
You know, I didn't even think about the person dying beforehand, and then he brings his grandkids to the party. I never even thought about that, but you're right. That kind of ups the ante a little bit for me and makes it even more hard to believe. But like Dan said, we keep seeing Hammond making reckless stupid decision again and again and again. So it fits, but now that you point that out, that does take it to another level.
I feel like Hammond is an eccentric. I feel that Hammond wants this park desperately to succeed. I feel that Hammond has thrown all kinds of money, his own and other people's, at this park. I feel like he has no idea what he's doing. I think Dan is correct in that. I do not feel that his character, who is caring and loving and realizes the error of his ways, would just bring his grandchildren onto this park after a death on the park and it being investigated for said death to see if the park is safe to even open.
I feel like he has made a ton of mistakes. We see him make a lot of mistakes in the movie, and he just keeps saying "spared no expense." I think it's consistent with his character.
I believe spending money and caring for your loved ones are two different things.
But he doesn't even spend money in the right ways. Like they mentioned, why don't the doors have locks on them? I've said that, like, this guy in charge of security has said these doors need locks on them a lot, and John Hammond just kind of, okay, whatever. Like,
but Will, are you saying that it's an unbelievable move by John Hammond?
I believe it's an unbelievable characteristic for him to be like, yeah, bring the grandkids. This is going to be great. We'll wow them.
Well, I definitely do believe it, because this is like the 80th time I've watched the film and I didn't even think about it that much. I thought it was a stupid move, but it fit the character. So it was believable and it fell in line with his character for me.
I would believe it more if he wasn't such a caring and endearing man. You can tell how much he cares about the scientists he's bringing and their opinions. He cares about his investors. He wants to make the right calls. He's going through with this process. He cares about putting on the best spread and the VIP tour. He cares a lot. He cares about every dino. He's there for every birth because he wants to father them.
I'm not sure I think he cares that much. Dan, do you think he cares a lot, or do you think he's just excited with his new toy, his dinosaur park?
I think he has I think much like the people who are making AI devices right now, he has no imagination for things going wrong. In his mind, the park is state of the line, completely safe, no issues with it whatsoever. And when it does start going wrong, he realizes how few safeguards he's got in place. Again, we mentioned the biggest gun they've got is shotguns. You're right, it's in the book, not in the movie. But in the book, he straight up does not want to harm the dinosaurs. He doesn't have a bigger contingency for if the dinosaurs go sour, because in his mind, there's no chance of that happening.
I'd just like to state I never read the book. So
I've read it multiple times.
I think both of you guys have read the book. Have you not?
I actually have not read the book.
Okay.
I've read it. I've heard a lot about it, but I haven't read it.
I know nothing about the book other than it was a big hit when it came out. So
I've read the book multiple times, but not in a long time.
And the movie rights were purchased for this movie before the book was even published, because Spielberg thought this would absolutely be a hit.
Oh, he was right. This movie actually changed cinema for me. It was the movie that I remember going to the theaters with my father. The first movie I can remember. I may have gone to see other movies before this, but this is the first one I remember. I remember lining up outside the theater, waiting to get in. Dinosaurs were huge for me as a little kid. To see them come to life on the big screen and 100% believe this movie. I walked out of the theater thinking, holy shit, we're going to start cloning dinosaurs. That's a great idea. I totally thought that after leaving the movie. I bought this hook, line, and sinker. It was one of the most influential films for me. Is it a perfect film for me? No, it's not. I watch it again and again and again. And as time goes by, I find more and more and more flaws with it. But the very first viewing, this movie was pristine for me.
So I have a very similar story where I saw this with my dad and my brother, lined up outside, and there was even like a giant dinosaur in the mall. They were promoting the heck out of this movie. We watched a lot of movies back in the day. Like, my mom loved going to the movie theater, and there was a theater for like $2. So we saw a lot. So I have no idea I don't know what the first movie is that I remember. I know that my parents have told me they took me to see Back to the Future, but I was like in a carriage, so I don't think that counts. This is the first movie that made me love movies. Like, I left the theater, and I live in a small town, and just so happens the small town had the Making of Jurassic Park book. It was like a thick little thing, had a bunch of how they did a bunch of things and whatnot. And I took that book out of the library probably a dozen times. Now, I didn't end up going into film in any way, shape, or form, but like at that time, I honestly thought that I was going to. Like, this movie just set my imagination on fire. And the more that I watch it, again, there are small little things that you could say here or there, but overall, I think there's more things that I find every time that I like more about it, as opposed to things that I find holes. For instance, on this viewing, call me silly if you saw this forever ago, so be it. I didn't. Ellie has a line where they're in the Badlands talking about having kids, and I can't remember exactly how they get there, but essentially Ellie says, like, well, I don't want that kid, but a little miniature Dr. Grant, sounds kind of exciting. Don't you want to see what that would look like? And then we get introduced to Tim, who is in exactly that. He is a Dr. Grant.
Yeah.
he has the look. He is talking about dinosaurs nonstop. He's annoying people around him with how much he's talking about dinosaurs. But even to the point where he's wearing the same color pants, the same color shirt, same button-up shirt. His is undone, whereas the one is, and he's got a neck scarf around. Which, like, what 9-year-old kid is wearing a neck scarf?
But it's he's obsessed with Dr. Grant.
Exactly, he is a miniature Dr. Grant. You get to see exactly what they were just talking about. Things like that. Things like how they're talking about how. Life will find a way, and like you've got an island full of all female dinosaurs, but somehow they figure out a way to make a match. When he's on the helicopter and his seatbelt won't work, he's got 2 female connectors, and he finds a way to make it work as a seatbelt, despite that fact. Foreshadowing what we're going to find on later in the movie, that all female dinosaurs will find a way to reproduce.
That we're going to get 2 female dinosaurs that are going to wrap up and make babies.
Well, we don't know exactly how it works, but frog DNA.
Frog DNA. That one was a stretch for me, but whatever.
Again, the science is wrong in this, but that's what they present, so we got to go with it. I go with it.
The whole female thing and then them being able to reproduce is like, it's fine. It's interesting to me, and it makes sense for the movie with, you know, and you're not able to control nature. Like we've always tried. There's no way. And we failed multiple times, right?
Wait a minute.
Yes.
A penis finds its way onto a female dinosaur, but T-Rex can't find its way into the building. That's the one you have trouble with.
Yeah. But there's a butt, and it's a big butt. It's a juicy butt. The problem I have is they find eggs of reproducing dinosaurs. They have full-grown dinosaurs. How long have they had these dinosaurs around? How long has this technology been around? Because it's like, seems like it's all very new, and, you know, they haven't obviously worked out all the kinks, but it seems like this is like a 20, 30, 40 year technology that they've had to have gotten to this place.
Right.
Like, it's old. This seems like it's been older than Dr. Grant himself. Like, it seems crazy to me, the timeline on this movie, to get fully grown. Like, where are Ripley 01, Ripley 02, Ripley 03, all of this hair and sinew mess of miscloned dinosaur disgusting that somebody just wants to put a flamethrower to? We didn't get to see any of that. And how long ago and how long did this take?
So I can answer that question by talking about movies further on in the franchise, which I realize I just said we're only comparing this movie. But also, if this is the theme park, you're not going to see a lot of the behind the scenes. Like, yes, you see the rotating room where they show you the brightly colored lab. But I feel like that is kind of a display lab. I feel like if there were failed dinosaurs, that wouldn't be part of this. Now, we learn in the second movie that there's a second island. That's where they actually grow most of the dinosaurs. And then they transport them. Hence why the raptor is getting transported into the raptor pen as opposed to just having grown up there. But that's not discussed in this movie, so I can't really use that as part of this argument. But it's never bothered me either, because we're seeing, theoretically, a clean, fully functional park, not the other way around. If you're going to have dino genetics, people who can find DNA, clone DNA, use amphibian DNA to make it work. I don't remember if this is a line in the movie. I want to say it is, but I can't picture where it is, so I could be wrong on that. I wouldn't think that changing the dinosaurs' DNA in some way to make them age faster than they should would be that big of a stretch when you've got scientists pulling off the things that the scientists are pulling off.
Aging faster...
Also, I have no idea how long it takes for a T-Rex to grow.
That's the thing. I don't either, but you still have to, like, that. It takes time. I don't know how you speed up the process of growing anything. It's like people were like in fear of like, oh, we're going to clone each other and clone. It's not like we just have a duplicate of ourselves. You can't just grow somebody overnight. Like, it's such an insane amount of technology. It just is like crazy to think about the actual timeline of this technology and how investors have gone for this ride for so long. Like, it's mind-boggling.
Well, it took the lawyer 10 seconds to get on board. He was the one who was like, oh, I don't know, we're going to shut this down. You had somebody die here. He sees one dinosaur and goes, fuck yes.
That's one dino. Yeah, but that's like the final product. That's easy to get on board with. These investors had to have been on board for 30 plus years.
We get the impression that John Hammond is a billionaire, or at least incredibly rich. He's probably funding it to begin with. As soon as he can bring one even baby dinosaur egg in front of investors, if they turn as quickly as Gennaro does, funding for days.
Risky biz. And a lot of people in chat were talking about like comparing the AI movement right now to like Dino Park and, you know, nobody caring. Actually, but... Oh yeah, well maybe they were just continuing the conversation. The difference for me is that AI right now is the hot new thing because you can make buck on it. I feel like Hammond doesn't care about making buck. He specifically says he wants everybody to come to this park.
Yeah.
And that's the inherent trait of him. He cares. And so I still feel like it's a huge flaw that he would put anybody in danger, especially his grandkids. I just feel like it can't.
I think he was just ignorant of the danger. He genuinely believed it would be fine.
I agree with Ron 100% on this one. I see your opinion, Will. I don't want to discourage it, but I don't agree at all.
In hindsight, when I stop and think about it, you're right. Somebody died on the island, and he went and tested it on his grandchildren. That's crazy. But this movie pulls a bit of a magician's trick. They do the flashy thing over here, so you forget about those little bits and pieces. And I do still think that we are kind of nitpicking about this. Let's move on to the positives. We had some pretty strong animatronics that took place in this movie. We had some cutting-edge CGI that took place in this movie. The opening sequence when the Brontosaurus came out. We had some amazing scoring, iconic music that came from this that is still alive and well today. There were some really big hits with this film. Dan, what was your favorite part about the movie? What was the big thing, the big takeaway that you got from Jurassic Park? I know there's probably a lot, but what's the one thing that really, really impacted you the most?
It's got to be the T-Rex. Like when you talk about this movie. So the thing, you mentioned the word iconic, and you couldn't be more right. This is a movie that's 32 years old this year. And if you see almost any film reel of Hollywood, like if they're going to do one of those like cut up, I'm blanking on the word, a montage of Hollywood, there is going to be a Jurassic Park scene in it. I can almost guarantee it.
Yep.
This is 32-year-old technology that looks better than a lot of movies coming out today. Like that T-Rex, when he comes out, like there are some scenes, I'll give you that. The Brachiosaurus didn't age that well.
You're right.
Still looks better than Ant-Man, but didn't age that well. But the T-Rex scene, when he's coming out of the pen and he's terrorizing that vehicle, we mentioned somebody mentioned in the chat earlier the flashlight when it goes on his eye and the eye changes, like it dilates.
Mm-hmm. Dilates, yeah.
Is incredible. Like the things that they were able to do to make this feel real to a 9-year-old Dan sitting in the movie theater for the first time seeing this, and to a 42-year-old Dan seeing this for the billionth time this week. It is the definition of movie magic. And I that for every little pothole there may or may not be, the feeling this movie gives me while I watch it pushes those aside. You're welcome to have your opinions. That's the whole point of the show. We each get our own score. My score for this hasn't budged yet. This is still a perfect film for me. Are there minor flaws in one area? Sure, but all the wondrous amounts of stuff in the other categories push it over the edge.
What about you, Will? You got anything good to say about Jurassic Park?
I do. I really enjoy Laura Dern's character. I believe she is a standout in the movie. She's a strong female character for being smart, for not being sexed up and sultry. She is strong, smart, and she pretty much gets everything done in this movie. The females in this movie get everything done in this movie, let's be honest. There's how many females in this movie?
Two.
Laura Dern's character gets the power turned back on, and the hacker gets the gates and everything powered back up. That's it. Everybody else, sure, Dr. Grant keeps the kids alive, but they're the ones that actually fix the problems in this movie. And again, another strong female lead, the T-Rex, saving the people miraculously at the end. So the 3 strong female leads in this movie get it done.
Am I remembering incorrectly? Weren't you the one shitting on her for being a hacker?
I was the one shitting on her for being.
No, you were shitting on her. Yeah. I
Okay.
said it didn't fully fit, but I didn't mind it. And she maybe should have struggled a little bit more than getting it done in like 30 seconds. But
I think she would have died on the way if Muldoon wasn't there. Just throwing that out there. I think the kids would have died instantly if Sam Neill wasn't there, Alan Grant wasn't there, and without Lex, you're not getting the park back on place. So I see what you're saying, but it's a team effort more than I think you're giving others credit for.
Right. I do agree that Ellie had a great role in the movie. I liked the dynamic with her sort of being with Dr. Grant, but it wasn't like a romance. It wasn't a romance thing. Malcolm flirted with her a little bit, and that was kind of fun, but it didn't go anywhere. They just didn't go there. And I kind of appreciated that we left that alone.
Dr. Grant does, like, he says, is she available? And he says, and he's like, oh, you two? And he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So like he does allude to it, but you're right. There's no like kiss at the end or anything.
He didn't have to go save the girl or anything like that. There was this equality dynamic between all the characters. Yeah. They were all pulling their own weight. They were all doing a pretty good job, except for the kids who shined lights on the dinosaur and screamed and mucked it all up when they could have just sat there quietly.
100% what kids would do.
Right, you're right. You're 100% right. But my problem was, actually, I'll say this: the dinosaur attacking the kids in the car. I was believing the kids. They did a good job in that scene. They really did. So credit where credit's due. But there were several other scenes where they were like, they needed to deliver lines and they were like panting and they were tired, and I just did not believe it. I was like, the director just told you to take a whole bunch of deep breaths and deliver your line. Like, it just didn't. It took me out of it. It really killed it for me. The scene where the dinosaur is going after him, amazing. They did an amazing job in there. And you know what? As far as child actors go, these were not the worst I've ever seen by far. They did a pretty good job. I'm just not a big fan of child actors.
That's fair. I also love that Run 7 wanted us all to talk positive, and then he just went right back into those kids.
Well, nobody asked me for my positive take, so whatever.
What's your favorite part of the movie, Run 7?
Give us a rundown.
I'm sorry. When Dr. Grant turns Ellie's head and she looks up and they show the dinosaurs and he's like, it's a dinosaur, and they play that fucking music. Yep. Oh, I was sold. I was sold. I was like, I don't care what they do. This is great. And then the icing on top was the scene that Will hates and thinks this movie should be abandoned from everyone's library for, which is the dinosaur, the T-Rex, made its way into the complex, fought the raptors, which was unnecessary but freaking amazing, and then roars as the sign falls down. And I was like, yay, let's go see it again. That was... I'm sorry, the big dinosaur scenes, just the big dinosaur scenes, the kid in me freaking loves it. And the scoring on that sells it. The way they build up to it sells it. It was great.
I will say this is the first movie I ever saw in movie theaters twice.
I think I saw it. I probably saw it twice, even 3 times, I think, because it was so amazing. Yeah. But also, I kind of had a split household, so I went and saw it with Dad, and then I went and saw it with Mom.
There you go. Hey, you gotta take the benefits when they come, right?
Can we add a little bit about the character Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum? Talk about him for just a minute, because he's going to play a pretty big role in in next week's. So we might as well at least acknowledge that he existed in this film and what his role was, and maybe why.
Yeah, I think his character was the character of reason. He was the one that was. Not foreshadowing, but banging us over the head as to what is going to happen in this movie because of the carelessness of Hammond and crew. Yeah, and he also proved without a doubt, if you get attacked or chased by a T-Rex, your shirt will be magnificently open and your chest will be glistening throughout the rest of the movie.
His chest has never looked so good.
It's beauple.
Dan, what did you think?
They sexed him up more than they did Laura Dern. Let's be
honest.
They
really did. They really did. Dan, what did you think of his expose on chaos theory and the water droplets off of Ellie's wrist? Did you think that was a memorable or even needed moment in the movie?
I mean, I can tell where you're trying to go with that laugh. I actually do. I don't know what a chaostician is. And that kind of explains a little bit of who he is. We kind of know that he's there. Again, I didn't pick up on why he was there as a kid. He's cool. Whatever. Moving on.
Yeah.
But in older, more recent viewings, you can get a sense of like, no, the lawyer's bringing him in, why he's there. but I still don't really know what a chaostician is. I don't know if that's even a real thing, to be perfectly honest. So him sort of explaining what he does, why he does, and how that works in real world application, I thought was actually pretty smart, because even Ellie is like, yeah, this is way over my head. Ellie and Dr. Grant are very cut off from the world. They're alone in the desert. They don't know these kind of things. They don't know who he is whatsoever. Even when they're like, oh, I really don't like lawyers. They're like, well, we don't really even know any. Like, we don't have any connection to these people. So it was a great way. He's flirting with her. Of course, you're going to do some sort of flirting where you're talking about something you know well, because confidence is incredibly sexy. But he's also having a way where he can touch her hand and like rub his finger over her hand and stuff like that. It's a brilliant strategy on his part. So right. I don't see a negative there. I'm not entirely sure the water would go a different way, because I would think the water would take the path of least resistance and follow the other water drop.
There you go. He dried it off with his sensual touches.
Yeah,
well, exactly.
That was my issue with it. Is that the scientist in me goes, that holds no value in the lab whatsoever. I get what he was doing, and you're right. He has the sensual touch. If he were to maybe put it on two different knuckles, I don't know.
I think the idea was sound. I mean, perhaps chaos theory was, very unknown to a lot of people going to see a dinosaur movie.
I actually did disprove it.
Yeah.
It went different.
It's a sound theory. In a moving Jeep, it's obviously, he even states like, oh, this probably won't work as well as it should. But
yeah.
It was a quick way to kind of explain what he does and what he talks about.
I actually felt the butterflies explanation before that was more irrelevant.
Yeah, I think
that's the one where she goes, "Oof," like that one went right over her head. She didn't get it.
Yeah, the difference is like, if you know chaos theory and you know the butterfly effect, then you're fine. But he gave her like a here and now example of how chaos theory works, and why is he there? I'm not sure. A chaos theory mathematician seems an odd choice to bring in as a specialist on this kind of park, but he obviously does bring the most sound theories and complaints and arguments to the table, so it works out fine.
I got the impression he's a celebrity, and that's why
the lawyer was interested in his things.
He said, "Oh, I brought the doctors, you brought a rock star." I was under the impression that he is well known, so that might carry more weight in the real world.
Yeah, he was like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of the film. I think
there you go.
Is what they were trying for. I don't think. I liked his character being there. It added a little bit more flavor to the cocktail. Yeah. It was a weird mix, and I felt like him coming into it was like, why and where did he come from and everything? This doesn't fit right, but I'm glad he was there, and it turned out to be a very good character that I enjoyed watching. I was rooting for him at the end, even though he makes the stupid mistake. Hey, here's the guy who knows what he's doing when it comes to T-Rexes. Let me get out and do the opposite thing of him and screw it all up for everybody. But whatever, I liked his character. I liked what happened. And I loved seeing him riding in the back of that Jeep when the T-Rex is chasing them, and they zoom in on the mirror that says objects in mirror are closer than they appear. And that dinosaur's mouth is just come right. And he's in the back seeing this, and his expressions and emotions were really showing well during that sequence. I felt scared for him because he had the front row seat to that dinosaur coming at them.
How long does it take a Jeep to get up to 33 kilometers an hour? Or miles an hour.
Apparently 15 minutes, because that was a long chase scene.
It was muddy.
They're on wet, sure.
If you've ever seen a Mission Impossible where he's trying to board the plane before it takes off, those runways are 17, 18 miles long.
Yeah. It was also early electric vehicles, right? Early electric vehicles. Probably don't have
the gas was Jeep. The Jeep was gas.
Jeep. Yeah.
Oh, right. They brought in a Jeep for that part, right?
Yeah.
You
mentioned a couple of times, like, oh, I'm going to take a gas Jeep.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
I just feel like, okay, one, Goldblum obviously crushes it. He's amazing. Mm-hmm. We love him for who he is and what he brings to characters.
Must go faster.
The problem with his character is that after that scene, he is completely useless. And aside from being shirtless and looking just dazzling, his character kind of just, we used you for your information and your warnings so that we can make all of this be like, I told you so. You can't control nature. But his development just kind of was there and then gone. It was just felt like a missed opportunity.
I think he has a sequence when they're looking over some maps or something, and he takes the radio away and helps them or something. Little nothings, right? But he is able to take a essentially unimportant character and bring that character to life and make it so memorable that he takes the lead in the sequel. right?
Yes, but I would say again that's an actor blessing, not a writing blessing. Again, I would fault writing in that aspect.
I would
in the situations they're in. What do you do with a person with a broken leg? Do you just kill them off?
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, why not?
No.
Why? Like,
the movie's you feed them to the dinosaurs so you can get away. No, I see what you're saying. No, but I mean, his character works, the role works, everything makes sense. Like I said, it felt a little weird how he comes in out of nowhere and he's this rock star chaos-tician that's whatever, but they really quickly sell it to me. And Jeff Goldblum sells that character and he makes that character work and he does a fantastic job in the movie. He's not my favorite. Actually, my favorite is Ellie. I thought he did a great job. I also like Dr. Grant. Dr. Grant does a really good job showcasing his complex emotions when it comes to relationships, not just with Ellie, but with kids and with other people in general. We see that when the chubby little kid is talking about, well, that doesn't look so scary. And he then, gets the dinosaur bone out and makes the kid wet his pants. He does a really good job in this also.
I really like Dr. Grant, but that's also a great scene for the sense that now, like, nobody knew what a velociraptor was in 1992.
Right.
Say what you want, they were not a thing. And you can say that they're wrong now, so be it, whatever. Nobody knew what they were. So that one scene lets you know how they work so that when you see it down the road, you're like, oh, right, that's what he said would happen. You get distracted by the one in front and something comes from the side. Thing.
Yeah,
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, no,
does he go a little over the top with the kids? Sure, but we know he doesn't like kids.
But
he doesn't know how to interact with kids.
Raptors an important character in the story too. And before Jurassic Park, raptors wasn't really a thing, like you said. So
yeah, they're just big turkeys. I don't mind Grant at all. I think he has the strongest arc as far as character arc. He actually goes through change. I would argue Hammond also goes through change, although that might get
change.
That might get retconned in later movies. We'll see. But yeah, those two characters I felt had the biggest character arcs and change. I felt like the other characters were a little underdeveloped, unfortunately, because it's kind of an ensemble cast. I think they could have put a little more into the other things, but at the end of the day, this is like a action movie, right? So it is what it is. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention my other favorite character and actor in the movie, and that would be Mr. Wayne Knight. I think he did a phenomenal job with his character. You understood exactly what he was about. You loved to hate him. He was superb. He was superb in this movie.
I will go back to Dr. Grant for one quick second.
Yeah, sure.
I loved, and Ellie for that matter, Dr. Grant and Dr. Ellie. Whenever they came upon something, not even a problem, just whenever they came upon something, they went straight into scientist mode. Right? Like they were just analyzing everything they came across because this is their lives. This is all they know. Again, if you live in the middle of the desert, you're probably not the most social person. So like being in paleobotanist mode, that's not the word.
Yeah, something like that.
All the time makes perfect sense. The fact that she dug straight into her work as soon as there was a problem made perfect sense. And the joy on Dr. Grant's face when they see the Triceratops, I believe that. He was a kid again instantly. The Brachiosaurus as well, for sure. But like him laying on the chest and like hearing it breathing, big smile on his face when he's doing that. I believe that. Like that's 100% what I would be doing in that situation.
I do. Again, seeing dinosaurs is great. Why are half the dinosaurs we see sick in this movie?
Because they don't know what they've got.
Because they're eating too much lysine. They're eating too much lysine. They forgot to remove lysine from the plants, and so the dinosaurs are getting a double dose of it. They're lysine poisoning.
Double.
Do we see any dinosaurs that are sick other than
just the Triceratops?
Is just the one.
No, the one sneezes on the girl. Big old loogie all over the girl.
Yeah, that's true.
In the trees.
The Triceratops, they never figure out why that dinosaur is sick. I kept thinking they did, but they never do. And Ellie wants to stay behind to figure it out. It wasn't really important, but it was one of those things that I kept thinking that was going to tie into something. I thought that was foreshadowing.
I think that's the problem, is it wasn't important.
Yeah.
Shouldn't every scene be important? Shouldn't it all have meaning?
They needed a reason for the dinosaur to be laying on its side so Grant could lay on it and show that childlike wonder. That's really what I think it was, is all it was.
To split Ellie up from Dr. Sadler.
That too. Yeah, that too. Arnold and Nedry, Samuel L. Jackson and Wade Knight, they have an interesting dynamic. They have to work in the same space. Nedry is obviously a big slob. He's a real jerk. He's a weenie. He's also very comical. You love to hate him. You understand him. He does a great job playing that role. He's fantastic. And Samuel L. Jackson, of course, he does what Sam Jackson does. He delivers a line that everyone's going to remember for the rest of their life, which is, gentlemen, go ahead and say it.
Hold on to your butts.
Hold on to your butts.
Hang on to your butts.
There you go. Hang on to your butts. And he does that in every movie he's in. He has a fantastic line. And so I like the scientists. That was, I think everybody in this movie does an above average to amazing job. I can't think of anybody who took me out of the film other than a few parts by the kids, and it wasn't anything that I wouldn't expect. So I really thought acting was really top tier in this.
Yeah, I feel like the acting superseded the writing. I feel like the actors brought the characters higher than the writing did.
And I'm going to jump ahead here because I did recently watch the sequel to this, and it seems like the actors, which are some we've seen before, take that writing to a whole nother level because that writing is so much worse. But that's for next week. But yeah, taking writing to another level, we'll get to that next week. For me, I don't have a whole lot more to say on this movie other than I enjoy it. I enjoyed it. And we're trying to pick things apart here mostly because Dan came in with a hot score 100. But honestly, this is a fantastic film. This is amazing.
Well, why don't you just run that right into your rating then? We can just...
All right. So... for me, there was a lot going on in this film, big ideas that were delivered pretty well. There were some, I wouldn't even call them plot holes. They were more like pinholes in the plot, really. A few things that we could get stuck on. But this movie had the magician's touch where he's got the flash and the bang over here, so you completely forget about any of that little stuff that's happening on there. Some of the stuff that we talked about was like timing, like how long has this island been around? How do these investors do this? How does that all work? And I'd like to remind you that the people who like dinosaurs tend to not know anything about dinosaurs. There was actually more time between the Tyrannosaurus Rex and the Stegosaurus than the Stegosaurus and human beings. Okay, these dinosaurs did not all exist on one island or one continent ever. They had millions, hundreds of millions of years in between them. And most people don't even know that stuff. So if we're going to circumvent, 40 years of industry growth, I'm okay with that. It's not a big deal. Most of the things that could hold you up in this movie are just negligible in comparison to the tremendous achievement in both visual effects. I'm talking CGI and animatronics, and the sound quality of this film, which is absolutely iconic to this day. You all know, like everybody knows that. This movie was stellar fun. It doesn't hold up as well as I would hope it would hold up, but for its day, it was a masterful achievement. For me, this movie comes in at a solid 87. That score did not fluctuate one bit while we went back and forth talking about it today.
Very cool. Will, should we get you next?
Absolutely, we should. Now, I brought a lot of issues to the table in this movie. I feel like I tend to focus on writing. It stands out a lot to me in movies, whether it's hitting all the right notes for me or not. That's where I can see a lot of friction in productions on movies, things like that. But that said, there's a lot of great moments in this movie as well. The actors, I feel, again, did a tremendous job in this movie for what they were given. And the movie, for being a monster movie at heart, brings a lot of fun scientific questions into play. And that always brings up lots of topics to talk about, which I really like theorizing about those kinds of things. How long has this park been in the comeuppance? And, where is Hammond's mind at? And how did he get all this money? All these weird and interesting things. I love Wayne Knight and everything he does. If you don't know Wayne Knight outside of Newman from Seinfeld, I just take this as an example and just go and watch Wayne Knight movies. He's incredible. But for me, Lauren Dern is the standout performance because I believe she brought the feminist touch and the strong female character to the character. And it was very nice and refreshing to see that because we just don't see it enough in movies. That said, when I saw this movie as a child, come on, it's got dinosaurs. It's the best frickin' movie ever. I can't not give this movie a high score. It won't be as high as Dan's, but it's a solid 84. Spielberg, he knows how to set us up and make us want more, and he knew exactly what he was doing, marketing this to children, bringing dinosaurs alive, and just letting us go home wanting to buy another ticket as we just lived in the moment of time where we thought dinosaurs could be real once again.
This movie absolutely captured my imagination as a child. It still does to this day. I recognize there are flaws. Like, you could argue, yes, no movie is 100% perfect. But at the end of the day, the things that this movie does right, and for the time that it did them, outweigh any of those tiny little nitpicks that I may or may not have with the film. And honestly, even the nitpicks that I addressed were more nitpicks that I knew other people had with it than nitpicks that I personally have with it. I think this movie, for a summer blockbuster, for a fun action flick, for a dinosaur movie, was one of the first truly great cinematic achievements in, like, maybe not one of the first, sorry, one of the best movies for cinematic achievements as far as, like, prop work and blending that with CGI to make the dinosaurs come alive. We didn't really talk about it all that much. The sound is incredible in the sense that, like, the John Williams score is incredible, but also the sounds they had to make for the dinosaurs. Keep in mind, nobody knows what a dinosaur sounds like. The amount of things they had to mix up to make it work, the amount of stuff they had to do behind the scenes to make things work. Like, for instance, the little cup in the glass that everybody remembers when the T-Rex is coming up and it has that little, like, pin drop moment. It took them a long time to figure out how to make that work. In the end, they had to use a guitar under the car. And it's such an iconic moment that, like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Even when you mention Jurassic Park, that might be one of the first things that comes to your mind. The movie, as Brian said earlier, is iconic. And I think it's iconic throughout. I don't have the problems with the character writing that Will does. I don't have any problems with the actors. I think if you're looking at this from the gaze of 2025, there are a couple of CG effects that you might be able to pick apart. But knowing when it came out, how long ago it came out, I don't fault the movie for that. At the time that it came out, this looked incredible. It set the benchmark, and it set it incredibly high. I would have a hard time thinking of a movie that's come out since this one that has topped it in all of the categories that it has, for an action movie at least. I don't know. Are there flaws? Maybe. Do I care? Not really. This is still 100 for me.
Yeah, Dan, you mentioned, like, the sound effects, and the Tyrannosaurus Rex specifically was like a mixture of dog, penguin, tiger snarling, alligator gurgling, and baby elephant squealing is how they got the iconic T-Rex roar. And a lot of movies can't reproduce it because they actually, like, put a stamp on it and they made it theirs, and you can't copy it. So other dinosaur movies, if you feel like the dinosaurs just aren't roaring quite to the best of their ability, that's because Jurassic Park owns the rights to those specific roars and those combinations of sounds.
We are, okay, sorry, I forgot the asterisk, but so be it. There's an asterisk there, guys. We are one movie in Jurassic Park, and it is taking the top spot. I have no idea why. That's weird. With a score of 90 with all three of us on it. Is there any chance it's going to hold that after next week? No, absolutely not. It's going to drop pretty fast and pretty hard. But now we are going to do Jurassic Park and Jurassic World as two separate franchises because they are differently named. I don't think this is the last good movie. I just think this is by far the best movie.
Oh, thank you very much. I also forgot, now that I saw Highlander there was a proposed poster that had it like a stormy night. You see the Jeep, and in blue electricity, there's a blue electricity T-Rex in the background. It's like electricity, but it makes the image of the T-Rex incredible. I don't know why they didn't use it. Super weird, but I had to relate this back to Highlander.
Hey, you know
I will
what?
definitely try and find that for the edited version. I'll put that on screen.
When they shot Tim off the fence, there was no blue lightning. They just used regular old sparks.
It wasn't the 80s anymore. We'd grown out of it.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. That's about as close as we're going to get. Any final remarks? We get to close this up and head on out.
Just thanks to chat for showing up as usual. Love reading the comments as we talk about this stuff. You guys bringing up excellent points and memories to the movie that we can, refreshes us as we're talking about this. You guys are always an important part. I know we don't talk to you guys in chat much during these because we're trying to keep it concise and short, but we always appreciate when you guys show up.
Abso-frickin-lutely. And also, my score may not be 100 because the movie is, the best thing since sliced bread. I watch this movie every time it's on.
Oh, yeah.
Bar none. This movie is on. I'm going to watch it. I love this movie. Is it 100% movie? I don't think so. And I wanted to come in here with the negative because I knew these two would be more on the positive, and it just gives us something to rant and riff off of, right?
My kids were hooked when we watched this, and so we rolled right into Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World. And
wait, was this the first time for your kids? It can't be.
This was the first time for my kids. Yeah,
that's amazing.
There were actually some scenes like when the T-Rexes in the second one rip the guy in half, and then when the T-Rex eats the guy off the toilet, they were like, they wait because they're pretty young.
Yeah.
But otherwise they hung in there and they really enjoyed it. They're kind of like, tell me when it's over.
Yeah, that's good to know because I can't wait to show Strong Boy this movie, and it's just a matter of time. I just want to know, like, age-wise, I got to wait a few years still.
I think 10's a good solid time. My 8-year-old's a little jaded, so it was okay, but he was like, just tell me when it's over. Yeah. And but 10's probably a solid time to bring him in. You're not going to have any trouble with it.
All right, and that has been our rating of Jurassic Park. Now, what do you think? Am I crazy for giving this a perfect 100 score, or the other guy's more accurate in like the mid-80s range? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'd love to know what you would have rated this movie, as well as what franchise you would like us to tackle next here on our rating. We record this live over at twitch.tv/TheMongoolie Show. So if you want to head over there and hit the follow button, we record on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can be part of the conversation. We don't interact with chat all that much, but we do read everything you have to say. And we talk to chat before and after the recording. So you can be over there, join the conversation as it's happening live. Or if you enjoyed this video, you made it this far, you probably did, hit that like button as it does help out quite a bit, and hit subscribe so you know when the next episode of Our Rating comes out. But from all of us here at Our Rating, I hope you're safe, I hope you're well, and until next time, have a great night.